Bonjour, bonjour. Two for you, Mark.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to the home of FIFA here in Zurich. I'll just quickly go through the order of the press conference today. We will start the first part on IFAB business. Please raise your hand and just let us know your name and media organisation. Please wait for one of the microphones. On my left, my colleague Giovanni will hand you one. And we will follow this by general media inquiries. So as host, I will now hand it over to FIFA Secretary General, Jerome Balk.
Thank you, and good morning or good afternoon. I mean, as you know, this meeting took place at FIFA because it's the case when it's the World Cup year that FIFA is the organizer of the IFAB meeting. It was a meeting of, 2 hours? With good discussion on some of the proposals or subject. There were a few decisions which were made. The first one is concerning the head covers, and you remember that there was an experiment for the female players, and this experiment was run also last year, and the decision has to be made this year. So it was decided that it is confirmed female players can have a head cover to play. But in the meantime, we received some requests from male players, and it came last summer from Canada, where in one of the tournament or in the league, I mean, there was a request from the Sikh community to play with head covers. I mean, you cannot do a discrimination. We are talking about discrimination vis-à-vis of women. Most of the time, you cannot discriminate men. So it was decided that what applies to female can apply to male, and that the male player in the different competitions can also have such covers. We will work now with the directors, with the Secretary General and CEOs of the 4 British associations. We'll work exactly on the definition of this cover, and there will be a circular which will be sent to all 209 member associations to confirm and to define the term of this decision. It was also under Law 4, there was clarification which was given to the definition of undergarments, where it is definitely decided that it must not have any kind of slogans, statement or images. So it has to be clean. This decision, it is important to say, we are making the decision that it will apply to the World Cup and at the World Cup, so the decision will be enforced on the 1st of June and not on the 1st of July. So the World Cup and this decision on, again, the Law 4 for the undergarments will be in force for the World Cup 2014 in Brazil. Regarding the rolling subs, I will ask later both the FA and the Scottish Football Association to talk about and to give you an update on where we are. There was a discussion about, these electronic performance and tracking systems which are used in already in many sports, which are used by various teams. There will be an experiment at the next Algarve Cup next week from the 5th to the 12th of March. It's a women's football tournament, and then the result of this experiment would be given to the football panels we have now as part of the new organization and structure of the IFAB to discuss if it adds any value to our game to authorize such use of these devices. Regarding shin bins, we just say that the experiment will continue under the IFAB and the advisory panels will also wait for some additional information, and these advisory panels, which will meet between September and the next general meeting, will discuss about these shin bins. The triple punishment, it was something which was discussed. The triple punishment discussed because there was a request, or there was a letter sent by UEFA to the IFAB to discuss again. I mean, it's not new. I think it has been in each of the agenda of the IFAB for the last years, this triple punishment. Again, there was a lot of discussion, including concern that the request from UEFA would mean the potential to have cynical fouls. So, long story short, the request from UEFA was not approved, and even if I know that it will bring a smile on your face, it has been decided that the panels will discuss again about this triple punishment and see if there is one day, one way to stop, bless you, to discuss further about this triple punishment. So, not much to add, and I don't think that we should enter again in a discussion because we will stay there all afternoon. Regarding the video and the use of the video, also long story short, the decision from the IFAB was to authorize the use of the GLT system and not to authorize any other use of the video in our game. This position is not different today, and there will be no authorization to use the video in our game by the meeting we have had today, or by the members who made this decision today. Will the world will change? Will the use of video will come once in our game? I mean, we can always discuss, but the use of the video will not be in our game, except the use of the GLT for the time being. There is not much I can say about that. And finally, you know, all of you, I hope you know, all of you, each of the laws of the game. I will not ask how many laws of the game we have, but we have 17 laws of the game. And these 17 laws of the game, they are in this blue book on 53 pages. And then you have another 100 pages which are about the interpretation of the laws of the game. So we think that it makes, or it's a bit difficult to understand or to read, and that's why we are working on a new structure where each laws of the game will have the interpretation, and we'll work on a glossary where we can define, or we can really determine the meaning of a word, because it seems that direct and even direct and indirect, the meaning is not the same all around the world, and it seems that there is misinterpretation of some of the words in the laws of the game, or the interpretation of the laws of the game. So we are working on a revision of the laws of the game, but also a revision of the structure of this blue book, and to make it a bit more clearer. Having said that, my friends are welcome to add whatever they wish, but firstly it's about this amateur recreational football and the rolling subs. Where?
Okay. I'll speak on behalf of the Scottish FA regarding this particular proposal. As you might be aware, we've been running a pilot for 2 years, which has given flexibility for the amateur and the youth end of the recreational game to increase the number of substitutes in a game, or to introduce rolling substitutes on a flexible basis. We discussed a number of statistics this morning that have come back from those reports. For example, 80% of coaches who've actually used this particular rule change have said that their ability to give players a game at some point during the game before the final whistle has actually led to an increase in interest and participation. Squad sizes have increased by 18% in those parts of the game that have been running this pilot. And 74% of the coaches that have actually used the pilot actually took the decision to increase their squad. Interestingly, 60% of the 4th and 5th substitutes who participated in the project actually managed to play for 15 minutes or more during the pilot, which has led again to that interest factor. And we're having some very enthusiastic comments coming back from the recreational game about wanting to maintain this and perhaps see it as a permanent feature in recreational football. So with that in mind, and with comments which no doubt Alex will build upon from the FA's perspective, we were very pleased to see that this pilot has been extended, and it will be debated within both the football and the technical advisory groups with a view to bringing it back to see whether this is something that can come into the game on a permanent basis. Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. Just to re-emphasise what Stuart said, really, we've been running a pilot in what we would know as grassroots football in England. It's genuine recreational football. This is below our National League system, so effectively that's below the 10th league in the English system. And I think one of the complications is that, you know, we're blessed with a deep level of professional, semi-professional football in England. There are countries out there where all football is amateur, and what we don't think is appropriate is that this modification to substitutions is right for every, you know, the top level of football in every country. But clearly, in order for these laws to work globally, we need to get the right phraseology. Perhaps we need to define a term around recreational football in the new glossary for the laws of the game or something. But for us, it's been a really important pilot, and we've seen, as Stuart's mentioned, some really strong results from coaches in particular, but also teams and leagues remaining intact. The integrity of a league is important at this level, where teams, if they can't sustain the number of players, can go out of business, and you can get leagues with teams removed from them. So we've seen an improvement there from 3% of teams at that level of football. 3% of leagues would have been affected by integrity issues. That was reduced to 1.5% by the introduction of this rolling substitutions pilot. So it's been a great success for us in England, and we're delighted that the pilot can continue, and we'll keep feeding those statistics back into the two advisory panels.
Patrick? Yes, if I could add to that, the information that we saw this morning from the FA and from the Scottish FA, I think, has been quite enlightening, actually, in the world of recreational football. This experiment, this pilot, has clearly been a success over the past couple of years. Everyone involved in football wants more people to play. Alex emphasised, and I think I would emphasise as well, and the other members would emphasise, that this is really about recreational football. It doesn't stretch all the way up the pyramid. Wherever you're looking, in whatever country, we did suggest that this would be, and it's agreed that this is really at the discretion of any individual FA. If any individual FA doesn't want to get involved in the rolling subs issue, then there would be absolutely no need for them to do that. But the pilot data that we've seen so far has been very enlightening, very positive, and for all the reasons that Alex and Stuart have talked about, we were very happy to support the position that was brought along to IFAB today.
Yeah, I'll just, without repeating, I'll just add a couple of words. In its simplest form, our job is quite simple. I mean, our objectives are to promote the game. That means we want people to obviously participate in the game and stay in the game. And at a recreational level, I believe that this does that. And if we are able to support that by being flexible with the models of football, then of course the Football Association of Wales was delighted to support this proposal.
Okay, we'll open up to the floor.
Which one?
Yeah, that's fine. And then you have
Hi, Andrew Warshaw from the UK. Can I ask you, Jerome, or perhaps Alex, why, since Michel Platini is so much in favour of it, the triple punishment idea was effectively ditched, and which of your federations supported it and which didn't? Because Michel Platini says that 2 do and 2 don't. If you could answer those questions. Thanks.
So Alex can talk about the reason, but where I want to be clear, it was I would say, a unanimous position that as it is, it cannot be changed. That we can work on it, we can still look at it, but it is not this proposal which can be accepted, and we can change the laws of the game as they are today, because it doesn't help and it doesn't solve this question of the triple punishment. But Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I'll re-emphasise the point. I think that the reason this was introduced post the World Cup in 1990 was to stop cynical tackles. And I think all of us felt that taking UEFA's wording, carte blanche, would reopen the door for cynical fouls. That's not to say that we don't listen and we don't understand the issues that are facing football. And we had a long debate about whether we could do more to interpret the definition of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, whether we could give more licence to the referees to have more discretion. But we acknowledge that as drafted, it's clearly a red card offence. And therefore, we think taking it to the football panel and the technical panel to come up with an appropriate solution that addresses the concerns that football have is the right thing to do. And that may be just re-educating people as to why it's in there as a red card and why it's appropriate that a goalkeeper making a cynical foul on someone through to score a goal with a clear goal scoring opportunity was brought in the first place, and why we would remove it very, very cautiously.
Yeah.
It's Martin Ziegler from the Press Association. Can I ask on the undershirts issue? Two questions about that. One is people have used the undershirts, sending message out about Nelson Mandela, for example, or a player, paying tribute to a player that has died. It seems that you're being a bit sort of taking a sledgehammer to crack a nut on this issue. That's one thing. And the second thing I'd say is, if a club which has a sponsor printed on the inside of the shirt, I think you know who I'm talking about. What if their player raises up his shirt to show that sponsorship thing? Is that a yellow card offence?
To be clear, the idea here is to get some consistency between the basic equipment, i.e. the shirts and the equipment you can see, and the undershirts. There have been no laws around what we can have on undershirts. So we've broken the rule down to make it clear that basic compulsory equipment has regulation, but also the undershirt, we think the simplest rule for the image of the game is to start from the basis that there is no room for slogans, images, or alternative sponsor logos on the undershirt. What we should be clear, though, is that it wouldn't be a yellow card offence. It will be dealt with by the competition organiser.
It's also worth stressing that there's a difference between action that the referee can take on the pitch if a player takes his shirt off or even puts his shirt over a head, and that's a yellow card offence, and then action that can be taken by a disciplinary body in the event that there's been some kind of unacceptable statement made that breaches a particular rule. So that those positions still exist. However, to pick up on Alex's point, that there is a concern that with different languages, different cultures being in play and players moving between countries, it's very, very difficult for referees in particular to actually make judgments on what's actually on a player's undergarment, and therefore it was felt that to keep it clean was the best way forward for the image of the game, and on that basis that was why the decision went ahead.
If I can just add on that, I think you're right, Martin. I mean, there are one or two of us that were a little bit sceptical on this, thinking that we're being perhaps a little bit churlish. Of course, everybody would agree, political, religious and the like were definitely going to be ruled out. Personal statements, however, some of us did consider, hang on a second, how far are we going? But I think when the FA did explain it and say, actually, what you determine, as Stuart said, is right and what is wrong, putting that down is just a very complicated area. So it's just easier for us to actually say it's got no place in the game.
To be absolutely clear on this point, if a player wants to express, for instance, a player who's died, a charitable slogan, a charitable message, good-natured, good cause, that's unacceptable now.
Yes, I mean, it's clean. We say no messages.
Yeah, there should be no message on the undershirt. But to be clear, it won't be the referee who takes action at that point. It'll be then down to, as Stuart says, the disciplinary aspect of a competition to take action. So it will be up to their judgment to decide what punishment such a message received.
The point, Brian, is that it may be a charitable message, it may be a personal message, it may be written in a language that is familiar to the player. Nobody actually knows what that message says in many cases, and consequently it's been decided that in order to keep it clean, to avoid lack of understanding on all those involved in this particular issue perspective, that it would be taken out, it would be kept clean.
Graham?
Graham Dunbar from the AP. Video replay for match officials caused a bit of confusion when it came up in the agenda because it did say match officials, not disciplinary bodies. So can you just be clear as to why this was on the agenda, and was the purpose to kill off this debate? I mean, is it IFAB's wish that video replay now disappears as a discussion for a few years and it's only goal line technology going forward?
I mean, again, there was a time where the goal line technology was out of the agenda and came back following what's happened in South Africa, and finally the goal line technology was approved and introduced in our game. For the time being, and that was the discussion, and again it was a real discussion, there is a risk that using the video will change the nature of our game. And there is a risk that whatever you do with the video, there is a time where the referee either will need, anytime he's making a decision or is afraid to make a decision, the answer of the video, and will ask one day to stop our game or to stop the game to make sure that he has the right information before he's making a decision. And that's the ultimate step in the use of the video, which is already the case in some other sports, but which are not played as football is played on the pitch. So rugby is a different sport than football. So rugby is a sport where there are actions, but there are time between the actions. So you can definitely think that using the video and ending the game for 1 or 2 minutes will not change the nature of our game. I give you an example, which is, for me, a good one in a way. You know that in Brazil we have been asked to look at the temperature which are in the northern cities of Brazil, Manaus, Natal, and others. And we say that we will have these water breaks during after 30 minutes of the first half. You can stop for 2 minutes the game, and the players can rest for 2 minutes and just make sure that they can drink. We got from some companies the request that will not only apply to to few cities where the weather is or the temperature are too high, but it will apply to all the 12 cities, and it will apply to all 64 games, which will give a change to the commercial partners to use these 2 minutes as an official break in the game, and to sell these 2 minutes for commercial purpose. And we said, that's exactly where we don't want to go. I mean, if we start to stop our game and if we start to have breaks in our game, it's the end of the game. And again, the discussion was, yes, definitely the video will give you more information. At the World Cup, you will have, I think, more than 30 cameras on most of the games, at least the final 35 cameras. So it means that nothing which will happen on the pitch will not be somewhere in or on a camera. And it means that the 1 billion plus people watching the final will have access to pictures where definitely the referee is far away to have the same level of detail of what will happen during the game. But still, I mean, it will be a game with 2 teams, and one will decide to win the game, and there will be an amazing competition. And that's why using the video is the fear that for the time being we don't know up to where it will go and where it could impact the quality of our game. So it's not no way, it's not never. It just said, let's look at all what is happening, but we don't have the solution today to say that the use of the video will help and will not, in the contrary, destroy the quality of our game.
Richard Conway from BBC. Just back to the undergarment again. In terms, one of the accusations you hear from fans is that the game is becoming a little more bland. There's not many personalities in the game. We all remember those big moments, when, such as Mario Balotelli, for example, revealing why always me after nearly burning his house down, for example, and scoring against Manchester United. Is the game a little more beige because of this measure? Because of this? And technically, in terms of, you're not asking the referee to deal with it on the pitch, you're going to deal with this retrospectively. So why was it necessary to make the rule change? Because if something's inappropriate, do the rules not already exist to deal with that by governing bodies?
I would say that the last part of your question, I would say it's easier to say you cannot do it and to avoid that we have to deal with a number of cases each time after the games. And then one of our legal body or disciplinary body has to look at each of the players or each of the case per game. It would be a nonsense. It's better to say no and to have a clean situation than to say maybe yes, but it depends on what it is exactly, and if it's bad, you will be sanctioned, but that's a disciplinary body will do it after the game, or if it's good, okay, it can be accepted. That's impossible. I mean, you will be talking about one game per year, fine, fair enough, but we are talking about so many games, thousands of games, you are talking about such level of football that it's easier again to say no. Sometimes you are criticized by saying no, by not recognizing that you can have nice messages. But what's the limit of, or what's the definition of a nice message? Then we'll have to put that in a glossary of the laws of the game.
Yeah. Keir Adnage, World Soccer. Just to clarify something on the head coverings, something totally different. You referred to a request from Canada about the Sikh League. Presumably this means that someone will have to come up with a specific type of head covering for men that has to go through the approval process. I mean, we're not talking about Sikh players automatically using either playing in turbans or using the particular thing that they use when they're playing hockey.
No, we are talking about a basic one, and we don't want to enter. It's sad we don't have the pictures, but they came with a design which is the top of it. That doesn't work. So it's a very clear design and basic one. The only one discussion, it's about the colors. So you know that we say that it should be the same color as the team jersey. There was some discussion that it could be also black. What we want to avoid is that the referee will be disturbed and will not recognize if the colors are different, which team is having what kind of cover. So that's what we are working on, and we'll make sure that we have a meeting later today, and we'll discuss the definition of this cover to be included into a circular letter to be sent to the 209 member associations. But it will be, how can I say, a very simple one. Yeah. It's really to
safe
cover.
As well. Safe. Medically safe.
For sure, medically safe, but it's a very simple one.
Hi, Ben Rumsby from The Telegraph. Just going back to the triple punishment, would it not be easier just to give better guidance to referees about what constitutes a goal-scoring opportunity, and whether, if they award a penalty and a yellow card, that will give the attacking team, a better goal-scoring opportunity than they would have had when the tackle took place? And if the penalty would give them less of a goal-scoring opportunity, then you would send that player off as well, because it would be of more benefit for that cynical foul in that circumstance. Does that make sense?
Again, I mean, you can discuss for all day. It's fine. I mean, that's what we tried this morning, and we have all the different opinions.
So hold on.
At the end, we are just saying that the referee should be the one making the decision, and the referee should be educated and should have the flexibility to decide when it's a red and when it's a yellow card.
I think it's fair to say.
But we need consistency.
Exactly, but that's the issue, that we need consistency.
The point about education was made very clearly at the meeting this morning. There are programs running which FIFA are involved in to try and deliver a programme that can ensure more and better consistency when it comes to this particular point, because we accept there are mistakes that are being made. There are mistakes being made in terms of the application of the rule, but the rule is very clear. Denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, irrespective of whether you're a goalkeeper or an outside player, is a red card offence. That's it as far as the law is concerned. Now, you can debate it all day long, but that's the point that we're trying to get across. How do we actually decide what is an obvious goal-scoring opportunity? Because that's under debate. The referee has to make that snap decision. Some of them have been incorrect. It's such an important emotive topic for coaches, for players, for clubs, particularly in the bigger high-profile matches, that what we don't want to do is just flip-flop back to where it was, because the reason it was changed originally was because there were cynical tackles, particularly goalkeepers, if they are the last person between the goal and the player, and they know that they can't get sent off, they are simply going to be taking out the attacker. Now, when you have a situation like that, and the attacker would have been clean through on goal with only a few yards to score, a penalty is actually a more difficult task to undertake, because you've then got a player between the goal and the striker. So it's not as easy as just simply saying, let's take it away again and reverse back to where we were. I mean, this topic has created probably more debate than any other. Certainly it was a major topic of discussion this morning. It will go back to the new panels. Those panels will consist not just of technical people, but we'll get a view from the football community, from the club community, and obviously leagues associations as well. We know it's one that the football community feel really strongly about. Clearly UEFA put their proposals forward as well. But it is so complex, and it will make such an impact, or it will have such an impact on the game of football. We've got to get it right, and we've got to avoid flip-flopping and changing the rules every 5 minutes.
Just to clear up some things, just to go back to the issue which I mentioned before about Barcelona's, can you have a logo printed, or a sponsor's logo on the inside of the shirt? Is that okay? That's one thing. The second thing is on the triple punishment. Did you talk about if you sent off for conceding a penalty, you don't have to be suspended? And the third thing is, did you talk about sin bins?
1, 2, 3. All me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jerome. Martin, sorry. The first one was undershirts. Yes?
The second one was, did you talk about
subsequent punishment?
Did you talk about
subsequent
punishment? Do you have to be suspended? And the third one was sin bins.
Yeah, so on the logos, we want to try and limit the undershirt to manufacturers' logos only. Does that answer the question? I'm sorry, I'm not...
Inside of the actual shirt.
Barcelona Intel.
When you...
Inside, they can lift up that part of the shirt. It says Intel there.
Yeah, but we even discuss...
personal logo. Hello, whatever. Is that allowed?
But we even discuss about the issue of the tattoo, because soon there will be not any more undergarment, but the guy will that, and it will be a big tattoo on his tummy.
I mean, on a serious point, that topic was discussed this morning at length. Not the underside of the shirt. The fact that where do you stop with this? If you actually say you can't have an undergarment, then will that simply lead to players trying to find an alternative opportunity, whether it's under the shirt, whether it's a henna tattoo that can come off the following week, whether it's somebody over in the crowd that's holding something that they can go and lift up. There could be a whole raft of things. So we had a proposal this morning that was made to the IFAB. It was supported, and the reasons that we gave earlier about wanting to keep the game as clean as possible, to avoid interpretation, to avoid ambush marketing as well, to be fair, that decision was supported. There was also a thought that the panel should look at perhaps the wording making reference to displaying images, irrespective of having images printed in certain area, that the players shouldn't display images, and that will be something that we'll look at and perhaps review for a future IFAB.
Martin, just to maybe clarify part of your question as well. We we talked about, you asked us, did we debate effectively the so-called third part of what might be a triple punishment? What we did say was that we reiterated that we felt that Law 12, that deals with yellow cards and red cards, etc., is how we would expect it to be. But what we're really looking for, and what the world is always looking for, is consistency. And of course, we don't always get consistency. But if we can try and clarify, and if we can educate through the new panels in order to get more consistency, then that's really what we're looking for.
Sin bins. So sin bins have been piloted by UEFA at an under-16 tournament at St George's Park in England. I will say it was a qualified pilot insofar as the good thing, I think, is that the referees found it possible to manage. It was, because these are youth games, they're 80-minute games, and it was a 10-minute penalty off the field for a yellow card offence. What both the referees and the coaches found was that it did have some perhaps unforeseen impacts on the flow of the game and the willingness of players to sort of fully commit to tackles. It was actually thought of as a development game exercise in educating players, so perhaps making them think twice about their behaviour on the pitch. I would say that we welcome the findings of the pilot, and that we've asked UEFA we will ask UEFA to carry on thinking about it at that youth level. I think there are some interesting questions out there. I would expect that UEFA will try some different things, so maybe 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes, that sort of thing. Because I don't think it was it wasn't by any means a success, the pilot. But I think our outlook as we sit here as the directors of the new IFAB is that controlled experiments with proper objectives and feedback into the IFAB, if they help us to make better laws of the game, then we support that.
If I can just add on the sin bins. It was an interesting experiment. I think there's still a long way to go. One of the things that the experiment was put in place for, of course, was educational, which I think we all support the idea of. But also the idea that, of course, if somebody would be sent off, it would fundamentally change the play. That's where we hoped that this potentially could go. But from what I understand from the experiment, it did fundamentally change the game. Somebody was off. The team would down to 10 players, became more defensive, and so it did have quite a major impact upon the game. Of course, those games were only 80 minutes long. 10 minutes was clearly too long. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done before we consider any further extension to the experimental status of this.
Part of that review has to look at how it's implemented, because with any development initiative affecting, let's say, the youth game, it has to be able to be managed by the referee. And as we all know, once you get into the recreational game, you've got a referee on a park trying to control a game. If sin bins are introduced and they're going to be applied, that referee also has to be able to manage that. There's the question about control of the time, who decides how and when they go off and come back on. So there's a lot of work still to be done, but it's a really interesting experiment in how do you change behaviour, how do you improve the behaviour of younger players without necessarily taking them off for the entire match.
Go to Stephanie, but we just have about 5 to 10 minutes left.
Stéphanie Pertuzet de l'agence France Presse. About the head cover, can you tell us in which country it was implemented and if there was an increase of women playing football in these countries?
I mean, it's a worldwide authorization, so whomever wants to use now in female and male football can do so. It was clearly said that in the Islamic countries to give this authorization has definitely helped women's football to be played. And as you know, we will have, if I'm correct, in 2016, under 17 in Jordan, women's football tournament, Women's World Cup, and it is clearly coming from this country bidding for the organization of our competition, of these competitions, a plus to have this authorization from the IFAB to authorize women, again from Islamic countries, to have these head covers. So it was a request coming from a group of countries and a group of players who say that it will help, it will support the development of football, and that's the main argument which made the IFAB to say yes based on the result of the experiment.
Emanuele Saraceno.
Can I, Jerome, can I just ask a generic question about IFAB? Forgive a touch of cynicism. When these two bodies were set up below IFAB, we were told that it was being done to make IFAB more modern, to make better decisions, to be more democratic. One could say that given that some of these items that are very important, like triple punishment, sin bins, have just been sort of chucked back to these two bodies, you do face potential accusations that in fact IFAB is now even more conservative, less modern, and with another layer of decision making below it, and you know that therefore be more conservative, if you like, rather than less. Could you just address that, please?
No, I think that I mean, again, we just went through this new structure and the reform of the IFAB, and these panels will discuss about the composition of the mainly about the football panel, because the technical one it's quite easy. It's the technical directors of each of our members plus the one representative of each of the confederations, so the 6 confederations. The football panel will definitely bring together all the football community, meaning, as it was said, member association, leagues, clubs, FIFPro for the players, if there is only FIFPro. We have also doctors, we have technicians, ex-football players, coach, ex-coaches. So it's a group of, let's say, 20 people, as we have in some of our committees, as we all have in different committees. And again, I think that it will be even more challenging for IFAB, for the members, because you will have a group which would be able to discuss and to come with recommendation to the board of directors and then to the general meeting to apply some of the changes, because because again, as we said before, it's not just us looking from the back. I mean, it will be people who are playing football daily. If you think about players and coach, and they will come with their ideas and their request to apply some of these changes in our game. So I definitely think that we are more. It's not a question of transparency. I mean, that's not the point. It's a question of being more open to consultation and more open to ideas coming from the world and not just ideas coming from us. In the meantime, what we want to do is to be more in control. I mean, to make sure that we are more in control of all these experiments, that we are not learning about shin bins at the last minute, that we are not learning about the use of ships, technical ships at the last minute, and that all of this is under the approval of the IFAB.
I think also, Andrew, you know, the new panels will be the antithesis of conservatism, because we will get the opportunity to research with existing practitioners from a much wider range than has historically been the case, their views on essential items within football. If we look at today only, we've already decided that there are several things that we would like these new panels to look at. We said sin bins. We said the clarification of Law 12 on sending off. We talked about an FAW proposal to clarify deliberate handball. We also talked about electronic performance tracking systems, and we said all of those would be good items to ask the new panels to take a look at. And we'll get really good people on those panels who will have a wide variety of views. That will be synthesized. We will then get really good data to be able to make decisions on in future. So I think the panels will be an excellent move for IFAB, and we will get really good decisions out of them.
IFAB historically, for me, has been very much more of a reactionary organisation, whereby proposals are put forth by members, sometimes, of course, by these members and also by FIFA. But ultimately now we're moving into an era where you will see an ability for us to actually work in a proactive way, to commission pilots, to commission experiments. And I think through the consultation process, through the modernisation that we wanted, that's the direction that we wanted to go. So I think those panels will challenge IFAB more, will be proactive, and I think we will see ultimately greater information and knowledge coming to assist us in making the very difficult decisions that we need to make.
Emanuele Saraceno, Italian Press Agency ANSA. Just to clarify regarding the video and the World Cup, there will be no images on the screens during the World Cup, and the fourth official will not have access to the images of the game like it was in 2006. And
are you sure? 2006? At the World Cup 2014, the fourth official will not have access or will not have a monitor and will not have access to a monitor and the feed of the game. Regarding the video and the infotainment and the giant screens we have in all the stadiums, there will be definitely pictures. You know that the only one replay we don't have on the giant screen is whenever we have the feeling that there is it's not very clear and it's subject to an interpretation, and to avoid problems in the stadium, we always say that whenever there is a feeling that